How you doing, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here, and I have a very special guest in studio with me today, Josh Dunn of 21 Pilots. Welcome to Sweetwater.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here, man. It's your first time at the facility?
It's my first time at Sweetwater, and I've been talking for probably 4 or 5 years about coming in and checking it out. Because I used to, work at a music shop in the warehouse, and my favorite part about it was just seeing all the new gear that would come in and opening the box and geeking out and looking at it and showing pictures of it to my musician friends. And so gear is a really cool thing to me, and coming in here was one of the coolest things that that I've got to see.
And you're not too far away from here. It wasn't a big, long trek to get you here either.
Yeah, we're in Fort Wayne right now at Sweetwater, and Columbus, Ohio is like 2.5 hours, something.
So cool, it's easy.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you here, man. Congratulations on your career and the success of the band, man. It's really fantastic to see how you guys have blown up. It's a really great thing.
Thank you.
So congratulations on that. So let me take a quick step back. How long have you been playing the drums?
I started playing the drums, I think I was like 12.
Okay.
And I used to walk to the local music store or skateboard. It's about a mile away. And I would play I'd play the electronic drums there and just have the headphones in and kind of live in that world for a few hours a day until the sales guys were just like, we got to try and sell these things. So if you can either buy them or get out. And I wasn't in any place to buy those drums, but I had such a blast trying to kind of just figure it out. And then one day I figured out how to play my first drum beat. And at that moment I took out the headphones and I plugged in the speaker, because I didn't care who heard me playing the drums. And that was one of the coolest. That to me was, I knew that I wanted to play the rest of my life. Whether it was professionally or just I have a kit around my house the rest of my life. And I kind of became addicted at that point. So I would say since about 12.
That's cool. I know that feeling. I've been playing drums for 40 years, so I know the feeling well. So with the style of music that 21 Pilots plays, you guys do all kinds of stuff. What was it in your early starting point of your career? What were you listening to? Did it tailor itself towards the style that 21 Pilots is, or did you listen to all kinds of stuff when you were starting?
I think that when Tyler and I first met, I think one of the biggest things that we had in common was that we kind of had a background of listening to all sorts of different music and pulling from all sorts of different things. And right now in our culture, it's way more common to have kind of one artist that covers a lot of genres. But at the time, I didn't feel like there was a lot of people that were mixing things like hip hop and rock. But that's something that I always wanted to do, because right next to that music store was like a used CD store that I would go in and have them recommend me an album a week. And one guy would give me like a hip hop album, and one guy would give me a punk album, and then I would walk it back over to the music store and put it in. And I would do the double headphones thing where like my Walkman's on and then my headphones for the drums were on, and I'd kind of blend the two and then I'd play along with sort of both. So I think I was influenced by kind of everything in a way. And then I knew that I always wanted to kind of blend those things. And I was like, well, I like it all, so why couldn't you have kind of a rock or indie song that has maybe some rapping in it? And then that's kind of, I think, what really started influencing where I wanted to go personally as a musician.
Very cool, very cool. So in your live setting, we were talking before the interview started, I'm interested because you guys have a very energetic show. Some of your songs are really thick with stuff going on. So playing along, what are you listening to? Between you and your partner on stage, are you guys hearing the same thing? You guys have completely different mixes. Are you the only one with the click track? I mean, how do you kind of set up your in-ear so you can, because the show is really tight, really locked, and sounds killer. So I'm just kind of wondering, it's a lot going on. So, and you said you're running the show from your position as well, yeah?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's something that I always wonder how bands do it, because I feel like everyone does it kind of different.
Sure.
For me, I think when I started learning how to play the drums, like I said, I would just put on headphones and play along with it. And even today, I'll go out to my drum kit and put in an album that I really like and play along with it. And I feel like that helped me musically, but it also helped me from a kind of a performance standpoint too, because I I felt like if I like closed my eyes, I felt like that band's in there with me and we're all playing together. And I don't know what it was. Maybe that was just me fantasizing about playing live, but that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And so I think now, because of that, I like to have everything in my mix.
Okay.
So I would say that the loudest thing by far in my mix is the click.
Okay.
Because I try to stay as close to it as I can. But then after that would probably be the drums, because I like to hear and feel those as much as possible. And then after that would be vocal. Actually, those are probably even. But I've got everything else in there too. I have the backing tracks in there, and I've got bass guitar, ukulele, piano. But I think the things that really matter to me the most are the click, the drums, and the vocal.
Okay.
And I could play with just that. But it's nice to have everything and feel like it's like I'm listening to it.
Sure.
And then Tyler has a bit of everything too. But it's crazy though, because if you put headphones in his monitor pack and then in mine, they're so different.
I can imagine.
And EQs are way different. His vocal's the very first thing, and then I think probably the piano after that. He's got some drums in there.
Well, yeah, he's got his own thing he's got to concentrate on too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you are an incredibly energetic drummer when you play. Seems very physical, right? You're jumping up and down and on your seat. I want to know if you could tell me, what is your drum throne?
Oh yeah.
Because you're like bouncing so much, you're really in shape. It's got to be a really physical gig for you. I don't know how much you work out on the side or not, but just looks like you got a great workout from doing these live shows. So what is that is that throne bouncing up and down with you? Is it like a hydraulic one that has air in it? Or,
Yeah.
Or are you just jumping up and down on your legs?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot.
Do you? Okay.
And I mean, I guess it's kind of a long answer, but when I started playing drums, what I really did is I would just spend hours on a website, drummerworld.com.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times I just like close my eyes and click one, and then
Yeah, tons of drummers on
there's
there.
so many drummers, and I would see a guy, and I really kind of like pieced together my style by taking bits and little things from what I saw these drummers do online or on YouTube or whatever,
Right.
or live. And one of them, I was on tour opening for like we were the very first band. This was years ago, and the drummer of the headline band was like, he's like a bigger guy, but he like had such a gospel style of drumming, which I've always been so fascinated and intrigued by.
Sure.
That style. But that guy was flying up and down, and I was just like, that looks, first of all, it looks really cool. Second of all, it looks like a lot of fun.
Sure.
And so he and I became friends on that tour, and I was like, I think after the first show, I was like, what? How are you doing that? And he's like, it's the DW 9000 hydraulic throne. And I think the next day I went and bought one. And I always say this, and it's vulnerable and it's uncomfortable to say, especially to musicians, but I try to get better at the drums every day.
Sure.
And I try and work on that as much as I can, but I've always really valued a performance aspect of drumming. And that's something that I want to be a performer and a musician, but I think that some of those little things make it more fun for me to play.
Sure.
And hopefully make it a little bit more exciting to watch.
Well,
too,
you could tell the crowd feeds off the energy too. I mean, there's a lot of energy going on stage. That's a really cool thing. So it's great to hear you say that, because listen, you're an entertainer at the end of the day. You're up there putting on a show. So
Yeah.
it's cool that you say that, and then you work towards that, putting on a good show for your fans. That's great.
Thanks.
Yeah, very cool. So to tie into sort of what you just said, you said you're always trying to improve your playing and your drumming. Is there ever some times when you just sort of get tired of it all and you have to kind of step away from it, since this is your career, you do it every day? Do you ever get tired of playing drums? You got to step back for a little while?
Yeah, I had a friend a few months ago. I was at a show, and we kind of ran into each other. We were just like chatting afterward, and he was like, yeah, we like know each other. We kind of know each other, but we're not like best friends. And he's like, man, what's your hobbies? What else are you into outside of music? And I was guess I didn't know what to say that much. I've got some things that I do, but ultimately, I kind of was like, I used to come home from high school and play the drums, and now I just come home from tour and play the drums. So like, it's insane how I've been able to make this my job, playing the drums. And I think that one of my biggest fears was always, I mean, one of my biggest goals was to make this work, to be any sort of job. But I think one of my biggest fears was that in turn I would hate it and I would get sick of it. But like, I want to play the drums right now. So maybe there's been a couple times where I've kind of felt like, oh, I could just kind of give this a rest, but that doesn't last very long.
Okay.
And I truly enjoy playing the drums. And again, you can't really ever be at a point where you're like, I'm good enough now. I'm like,
oh, that's for sure.
I'm done learning and I'm done improving. I think that there are stages along the way, and you probably have felt like, okay, I'm kind of in a rut. Like, how do I get better from here? But sometimes that's kind of the cool part, because it's just like, how can I get better from here?
Yeah, for me, I was playing at this little festival in Chicago over the weekend, and I saw a couple drummers I'd never seen play live before, and I got totally inspired just by watching these guys play. Made me want to go, sit behind the kit and figure out what they were doing. So yeah, little inspirations like that can definitely just kind of keep the thing moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's good news for sure. The band has a lot of fans. You have a lot of fans as a drummer. So what do you say to up and coming drummers who have that same goal in mind? They want to have drumming be their job and have those dreams and aspirations. What would you tell a young player these days?
Well, I think one thing that I've really learned and realized is that there kind of isn't really one specific formula that will kind of get you from this point to this point.
Right.
And there's so much that happens between the first time you ever sit down at a drum kit and then X, Y, or Z. And so I think the way that I did things as a drummer maybe totally wouldn't work for somebody else, and the way that they did it wouldn't work for me. So I think that a lot of it is kind of realizing that you have that passion first, which I remember when I felt that, and it was one of the coolest feelings that I remember sitting in playing at the electronic kit and then plugging it in, and I was like, there's other guys in here, but I'm going to turn it up and play this drum beat that I just learned. And that was something so special to me, and something that I felt really truly was worth pursuing and working hard at, whether or not it became successful. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And from then, I realized that as a drummer, you can't really go and just be like, I'm starting a band. I mean, I guess you could, but for me, I couldn't just be like, all right, I'm starting a band, and then just kind of like take that and run with it. You kind of have to first of all, you have to just find other people that are like-minded and doing what you want to do. But for me, I felt that because I felt that sort of, I couldn't really control where I was going. I just felt that it was important and necessary to kind of network. And,
for sure, yeah,
and I would say yes to it's like if somebody asked me to play drums for this, yeah, cool, I'll do it. As long as it didn't like oppose what I believed in or like what I felt convicted about. But for the most part, I kind of went and did whatever I could. And then kind of just developed a kind of group of people that love playing music, and I would then go to shows and try and meet people and then go home and play drums and try and get better. And sometimes it might sound weird, but kind of how athletes do, watch game tape afterwards and kind of study themselves. I would just set up a camera while I play and then just watch it and dissect it and figure out how I can improve and get better. Or I'd watch myself play a drum fill, and I'm just like, it doesn't sound really cool, it doesn't really fit, or it doesn't look very cool, and I think I can do something a little more exciting just from watching it.
Sure.
Because what I feel in my head and when I do it, it feels way different than how it really comes across. So even now, I go on YouTube and watch our own performances and kind of critique us, the stage in general, but then myself as a musician. So just play all the time and try and be really critical of yourself, which I think is a natural thing, but I'm always so critical of myself. And meeting people that have the same passion and desire as you, and then get creative with it. And don't worry about following a format that you've heard before. And I think that if you're truly creating something that you want to do and that you're passionate about and that you really like, and maybe bounce that off of some close friends who care about you, and ask their opinion and really try to look at it objectively, then I think that that's the ultimate thing. And, you know, playing and writing songs that you love and that you have a good time performing, I think those are some key things that I would say.
Cool, man. That's a lot of great advice. Thanks for sharing that with us. And thanks for coming to Sweetwater and checking out our place. And you're welcome anytime. Come back again. And good luck with your career and the future of the band and everything moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody.